so let's commence the meeting of March 25th, the Dartmouth Planning Board. The meeting, as all others, is being recorded. We have roll call vote. We will start with Margaret Sweet,
Present.
Nick Psychopatis,
Here.
Kevin Mello,
Here.
Kevin Estes, here, and Chris O'Neill is present. Let's see. First item on the agenda is site plan review, PSRP, PSPR 24-5, 286 State Road, Assessors Map 167, Lot 68-1. Christine?
So this is for a proposed Chick-fil-A restaurant or with drive-through of where the former Sears Tire was on the mall property. This had come before you at the end of last year for the actual A&R, which took this piece out of the mall property. So it is a standalone piece right at the intersection of Fawns Corner and State Road. We have the engineering team on the meeting tonight to give you an overview. It did go before the technical reviewing departments at a meeting. They did offer some comment and some feedback. You're going to get some additional information tonight, so I would let them start by giving you the package. Am I correct in assuming that, Joey, you are the project manager for this?
Correct.
Right, okay.
All
Very
right,
good.
so Joey and Maureen, take it away.
All right. Actually, we're gonna Jonathan Silverstein's here as well, and he's gonna intro the project, and I'll take it over and walk through the site civil, and then we'll hand it over to Maureen to talk about traffic.
All right, sounds great.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Silverstein. I'm from Blattman, Bobrowski, Haverty, and Silverstein. I'm counsel for the applicant. I'll just give a really brief intro. As you know, Joey Fonseca from Bowler is here, as well as Maureen LePatin from Bowman on traffic. And I believe that Scott Pittman from Chick-fil-A is on the line as well, or is planning to be.
Yes, I'm on here. Thanks.
Oh, perfect. The proposal is for a just under 5,200 square foot Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's going to have a drive-through. The drive-through has been constructed in excess of all of the standards set forth in the bylaw for design of stacking lanes and the rest of the requirements. The project will have 62 interior seats and 24 exterior seats, and as proposed, there are 87 parking spaces. The site is substantially covered as it stands with impervious, and there'll be a significant reduction in impervious area as proposed, and Joey will run through that when I turn it over to him. I know we did receive some comments, as Christine indicated, recently in terms of some of the performance standards set forth in the bylaw, setbacks for the site driveway, setbacks for some of the parking, and size of the parking spaces. I will note that all of those are existing nonconformities that are being significantly reduced. There's actually only one small, as proposed, extension of paved area in one corner of the site. Again, Joey will show you that, but by and large, that's multiple times offset by the reduction in impervious area as proposed. So we know that this is the first of but not the last hearing session. Obviously, we're going to need to address some of the comments that we've received over the course of the past few days leading up to this hearing, and we're hoping that we can get some good feedback from the board tonight, and that will take us into the next hearing session. So with that, I will turn it over to Joey to run through the plans.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. Again, my name is Joey Fonseca. I'm a project manager with Bowler. So I'm just going to take you through, Jonathan's already hit on a few of the points here, but I'm just going to take a little bit deeper dive into the existing condition, switch over to the proposed conditions, run through our proposal, the improvements, I'll kind of run through some of the architectural drawings that we have for the building, and then I'll end it by kicking it over to Maureen LePayton with Bowman to review the traffic portion of the site. So what you're looking at is just an aerial. You all probably pretty familiar with the site. This is the Dartmouth Mall sort of centered here on the screen, and our site location, I'll just highlight it here, is in this lower corner here on the corner of Founts Corner Mall Road and Route 6 GAR. This is just a more zoomed in GIS picture of the site. Again, with the building, existing Sears, former Sears auto building here with the existing parking here, again, at the corner of State Road and Founts Corner Road. So as we mentioned, it's a former Sears auto site here. It's currently improved with about a 13,000 square foot single story building. It's a pretty large building, and parking field. The existing parks within this parcel is about 103 parking spaces. We'll note that they're all roughly 9 by 18 parking stalls. Some are less than 9, some are a little bit more than 9, but I think it averages out to be about 9 by 18 across the board. There's 2 existing site access full movement driveways that currently service the site. One is on the west side that gives you access to the interior ring road to the mall here. And then on the northeast corner is another full movement driveway that leads you out closer to Founts Corner Mall Road. And those 2 curb cuts, as you'll see in the proposed condition, will remain and just be slightly modified, and I'll get more into that during that presentation portion. The grades on site are generally flat. It does slope from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. Grades outside of the paved area on this site are pretty steep. This intersection is quite a few feet higher than the actual parking surface, and then it slopes down towards Route 6, and the roadway slopes down towards Founts Corner Mall Road from this intersection up at the northwest corner. There is a section of the site that is within the Zone 3 aquifer overlay. I know it was shown on our site plan, and I will switch over to that portion, although it's not highlighted on this plan. But the Zone 3 overlay, I'll just kind of draw it in. It sort of encompasses this corner of the parcel, just so it's easier to see on the screen. We're staying completely outside of that aquifer overlay with our proposed development, and you'll see some overlays just to kind of show the pre and post and where the proposed improvements are relative to the existing improvements there out on the site. So as I mentioned before, the site is, everything in gray here is pavement that exists on site, with the building sort of being centrally located. It accounts for about 34,000 square feet of impervious coverage that currently exists out there. Utilities are all serviced via mains within the mall, as well as the sewer line heading out towards Founts Corner Mall Road and tying into the sewer service within that street. So all the other utilities are coming in mostly from the mall side, and then you've got drainage that is some's collected on site and then sent off towards the southeast corner of the site. Eventually conveys stormwater towards the Pascamanset River that's off-site. Ultimately, that's where all the stormwater from this site, as well as the mall or a portion of the mall, conveys stormwater to. So this site has its own stormwater on site that discharges and gets conveyed off-site. It also has stormwater that is off-site, which is from the mall side, that passes through our site. Again, everything gets conveyed off-site towards that southeast corner of the site. As mentioned, it was an A&R approved back in November, and it was recorded, I believe, in January or January this year, and our plans reflected the new property boundary. And from there, we'll have some discussions regarding the parking setbacks. As you can see from exhibit, I'll share how that impacted the existing parking and proposed out here. I think that's really it for the existing conditions. There is some landscaping surrounding it. There's some heavy vegetation along Founts Corner Road here, as you can see in this aerial. It's pretty overgrown. There's a lot of, I'd say, dead growth. There's probably some invasive species in here. I know as part of our landscape plan, our landscape group was looking to possibly thin out some of the landscaping here, it is a wall, and there's a lot of dead growth in there. So I think there'd be some select pruning as part of this application. And then no landscaping within the parking area, and there are some larger trees along State Road. But essentially, that's really it for landscaping that exists on site. So this next sketch here, just kind of highlighting some of the setbacks with the parcel boundary located. It's sort of this dimmer gray line in the background that was recently approved. The red outline here indicates the parking setback. It's a 20-foot parking setback throughout with this size parking field. And the blue dashed line indicates the building setback. So as you can see, as a result of the A&R, the existing parking field that you can see here, this is sort of outlining the perimeter of the existing parking field is already well within that parking setback along this portion of the site and really along this side of the site as well, a portion of that side as well. So there are some corners of the site that are within that setback, and we'll touch on how we're improving that under the site plan, proposed site plan conditions.
And Joey,
this is
can
just
I
the-
hop in just really quickly? Obviously, the board approved an A&R plan, which Joey's showing here. The A&R plan created this new parcel on paper, but all of the land is still in common ownership. So for zoning purposes, it would not be considered to be a separate property. I think we weren't involved in that, but I think the landlord probably just did this to make it easier to identify the leased premises. But for all intents and purposes, it's no different than any other part of the mall property, and it's still considered a single lot or a single property for zoning purposes, since you can't, through an A&R plan, create zoning nonconformities, which is what that would do. But showing the creation of a lot that would result in zoning nonconformities, those are zoning nonconformities only in theory, and the courts have held repeatedly that those nonconformities don't actually come into existence until that lot is sold into separate ownership. So I just think that that's a relevant piece of information for the board to have.
Thank you. So I'm going to switch over to the site plan now. We zoom out a little bit. And this is just a color rendering. It's got an aerial background just for so you can see the surrounding area and how this ties into it. But under the proposed conditions, the existing Sears building, the parking areas will all be raised. We're proposing a new Chick-fil-A drive-through. Here, it's got a footprint area of about 5,200 square feet. And I'm just highlighting the mouse here. Building's somewhat, I'd say, somewhat centrally located on the site. It's actually close to where the existing building is, just south of it. So where that existing Sears building is kind of in this front parking area right in front of the building, we're just south of it. So generally in the same location here. The restaurant will contain 62 interior seats and 24 exterior seasonal seats. So there'll be a patio on the left side of the plan here for some seasonal seating. There'll be a 3-lane drive-through entrance, which will merge down to a 2-lane. So 3 lanes for ordering, and then there'll be 2 lanes for meal fulfillment or pickup. And we can run through that operation as well. But just wanted to highlight some of the features of the new plan here. The parking field out front is designed for about 87 parking spaces. It does relatively follow what the existing build was or the existing improvements out here, albeit we've really reduced the impervious coverage here and really brought in the site quite a bit to allow for additional landscaping, allow for some landscaping in the parking area. Whereas, as you all know today, this is all just one big paved area. And I'll have an exhibit that will show the difference here, but really wanted to try to introduce some additional landscaping here, knowing that the site was mostly paved, and certainly that will help with on the stormwater side as well. So the 2 existing curb cuts, as I mentioned before, are generally located in the same vicinity as where the existing curb cuts are today. However, this curb cut here that leads out to Founts Corner Road is actually shifted about 20 feet west of where the existing curb cut is. And I know from the tech review meeting, there was discussion of, can we move that even further? The issue is that a pretty steep slope along here, as I mentioned earlier, and there's a guide rail along the top of that. So we're sort of maximizing what we can do there before that entrance gets a little too steep. It might be difficult to navigate through there. This curb cut here, again, generally in the same location, albeit we've just sort of straightened it out and reduced the width of it. It was a pretty wide curb cut. Previously, it's about 30 feet wide today, and it was well over 30 feet as it exists out there today. So we've got just two-way traffic flow around the parking lot. And again, this exit here on the west side will be a right out. As the southern portion of this interior road is a one-way into this portion of the site or the mall. So there's no left here, and I know I think there's an existing one-way sign here as well. So this is a right out, and we've striped it as a right out, so it's clear. And then we've also made this a right out as well, and we'll get into some more discussions on this as well, probably towards the end of our presentation here. So along with this overall proposal, there are two canopies within the drive-through area. There's a canopy at the order board section. There's also a canopy at the meal pickup. And again, that's as team members are out here taking orders during some of our peak times. It keeps the team members out of inclement weather, as well as even the guests who are there ordering, just keeps them out of that inclement weather for ordering, and then as well as for meal pickup as well. Trash enclosures located close to the drive-through entrance, close proximity to the building, easier for team members to access the trash enclosure without having to traverse across many drive aisles and parking spaces. Let's see. This overall layout, I'm going to switch over to this plan. So this in red here indicates where the existing paved area is today. As you can see, we're reducing that paved area by quite a bit, certainly around the perimeter. And you can see where that existing curb cut was here for the interior Mall Road. And then again, where that existing curb cut is here, that's closer to Founts Corner Mall Road. And it sort of, illustrates how we're proposing to kind of shift that further up to allow for, some additional cars to be queued in here over the existing addition, which is pretty close to that intersection there. So the amount of impervious being reduced here is about 14,000 square feet, essentially a third of an acre that's getting converted into, landscaping, as you can see on this sketch. So there's a lot of landscaping, there's a lot of green space, we understand that the existing site was heavily impervious, and there's a lot of stormwater being generated with that. Reducing that by a third reduces our overall stormwater being generated from this site. And we're also offering some additional water quality improvements here that we can certainly get into more if needed here. But the existing site, as I mentioned before, does have a drainage system in place. It did have some water quality components to it. We're proposing to keep all of that in place. There are going to be some new catch basins just because we're creating some low areas to capture stormwater. All of the proposed drainage that we're adding to the site is going to be all handled separately. So we're trying to keep the existing system intact. And then all the proposed changes, so the proposed catch basins will have a deep sump hooded catch basins for water quality improvements. There'll also be a water quality device that will also improve for TSS removal before ultimately it discharges off-site. So that's a smaller system from the overall system that's there today at the mall, but it is, as we're decreasing impervious coverage, we're increasing infiltration on site just due to the additional landscaping. But we're also increasing the water quality of the stormwater leaving the site as we're, again, reducing impervious coverage and implementing deep sump catch basins and water quality devices out here as well. So utilities, as we mentioned before, everything's serviced within the mall. So we're going to be tying into some of those existing utilities there. Some will need to be verified for instance, sewer. There's a couple of sewer connections out there, and we're coordinating with DPW on this, as some of the as-bills were didn't really jive with what our surveyors had. So we've got some ongoing discussions there, but we do feel that where the sewer is currently, where it's shown today, is what we'll be using to tie in for that service. So that way we won't be heading out onto Fons Corner Road or requiring any sort of road opening permits for that. Everything should be for utilities, should be handled on site as we have all those utilities here already within this pad area. Along with the stormwater portion, we are working with the DPW regarding the stormwater permit. We did submit an application. They are considering this for a major stormwater review permit. So we've got some plans that we're revising to comply with those comments. And we'll certainly be coordinating with DPW in the following days to answer any additional questions that are there. But as it sits today, this would be considered a redevelopment under the Mass Stormwater Redevelopment Standards, with an increase in water quality benefits as well as a decrease in impervious coverage. So that being said, as we're looking at here, we are introducing approximately 24 canopy and evergreen trees throughout the site. You can see them sort of with these dark circle trees. These are the proposed trees around the perimeter. Again, there's a pretty thick vegetative wall that exists today here. So we're just introducing some additional plantings in areas today that are just lawn areas or just grass lawn areas throughout. So we're introducing 24 canopy evergreen trees and over 400 shrubs and perennials and ornamental grasses throughout. So definitely taking a site that's heavily impervious today and bringing more green space to it, and with that reducing a lot of stormwater being generated off-site. I'm just going to flip through a couple more pages here. So again, this is just our site plan that was submitted. Again, just kind of highlighting the proposed pavement areas versus in red the existing edge of pavement out here. Just kind of highlighting the differences there. There were two truck turn exhibits that we wanted to share tonight. This is for a WB62 truck, and we'll get into some of these maneuvers after, but this is showing the truck entering the site and then exiting out onto Founts Corner Mall Road. Trash pickup and deliveries, all of that's done off hours. So navigating through parking stalls won't be an issue, as they'll be operating these under when the store is not open, so there won't be any cars within those parking stalls, so they'll be able to freely move through the site and exit. We also have per the request of the fire department, they had provided the specs for the fire truck, and we're showing a fire truck turn movement through the site, plenty of access to the building, and then exiting out onto Founts Corner Mall Road there. And architecturally, I'll bring up the renderings that we have just for some perspective views on the building. Let me just zoom in here. So these are just the various perspective views of the restaurant, just kind of showing color, the materials. This is the meal pickup side here on the top left. So again, this is the canopy over the meal delivery area. This is the front of the store. We got a parking here. And then this is the back side of the building. So as you come around, these are the two queue lanes in the rear as you head towards the meal pickup area. And then again, this is just kind of highlighting the back corner and then the front corner here where the patio surfaces for the outdoor seating. It's a perspective view of the trash enclosure. Again, it's probably one of the nicest trash enclosures you'll see. It matches the architecture, it matches the brick and the color of the Chick-fil-A building. So it will match that same look and that same character. And then again, just some renderings just showing the order board pickup canopies as well as some additional exterior elevations for the restaurant. It's got an overall height of just under 21 feet. For the restaurant. It's a single story building, so well within the height restrictions here. And I think really, that's really it. I look from a existing and a site plan perspective. What I'd like to do is, I know that we've received comments through the portal. And I think what we'll do is have Maureen just kind of present the traffic side, and then we can open it back up to questions, because I do have some exhibits to share that might answer some of those questions that were through the portal. So if everyone's in agreement there, I can just kick it over to Maureen, and then we can wrap up with some questions.
Yeah, that's fine, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, that being said, I'll turn it over to Maureen LePayton with Bowman.
Thanks, Joey. Are you able to switch to the next slide for me? Thanks. Great. All right. Good evening, everyone. As Joey mentioned, my name is Maureen LePayton. I'm a professional engineer with Bowman Consulting. We had completed the traffic impact study for the proposed site. Just wanted to give an overview of the methodology, the process that we've used to prepare our report, as well as some of the findings from our study. We began with a data collection effort at study area intersections to help identify existing traffic volumes and patterns, and determine the weekday midday, the weekday afternoon, and the Saturday midday peak hours, which we then used in our capacity analyses. We had 4 main intersections included in our study area. We had the signal over here on State Road at the Dartmouth Mall Western driveway. We had the signalized intersection of Old Westport Road at State Road and Founts Corner Mall Road. And then to the north on Founts Corner Mall Road, we had the signalized intersection at the Stop and Shop and Dartmouth Mall Northern driveway. And then we had the unsignalized intersection of the Dartmouth Mall Southern driveway, the right in, right out, that's unsignalized right now, right here. And then we had also counted this little on-ramp that goes to the site from State Road to get a sense of the amount of traffic that uses that ramp right now. We then seasonally adjusted our traffic volumes based on the Mass DOT data adjustment factors. We had collected data in January of 2024, and based on the Mass DOT data, the January volumes are typically about 1% lower on principal arterial roadways than average. So we adjusted all of our volumes upward by 1% to account for that. We then use these base volumes to analyze our 2024 existing conditions. And then we build off of that to develop our future no build conditions and our future build conditions with the project. To determine our future no build conditions, we continue to grow those existing 2024 volumes based on a background growth rate. We had used a background growth rate of 1%. It's a fairly conservative growth rate. We confirm that with the regional planning agency. And then we grow that over a 7-year timeframe in accordance with the MassDOT standards for traffic impact studies. So our future no build and our future build conditions are a 2031 traffic volume. To develop the future no build conditions, we also take into account other planned developments or roadway improvement projects in the area that would be expected to impact operations at any of the study area intersections. We had coordinated with the planning department to determine if there were any other planned development projects in the area that would impact traffic operations. And based on our coordination with the town planning office, there weren't any other planned developments within the study area, but we did identify the Mass DOT project on State Road between Founts Corner Mall Road, and the end limit is just off this screen at Hathaway Road. That project is at the 75% level of design currently. And based on our coordination with Mass DOT, this project is currently planned for federal fiscal year 2025. So would reasonably be in place before this project could be constructed and opened or under construction anyway. So the Mass DOT project proposes to provide increases in the traffic signal cycle lengths and provide coordination along the Route 6 corridor, which would be expected to improve future traffic operations compared to existing. And based on the plans available from MassDOT, we took the proposed timings from this project into account for both our future no build and our future build analysis. And then moving on from the future no build conditions, We then analyze the future build conditions where we add on additionally the new project trips associated with the proposed development. And we determine our proposed trips based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the ITE manual, trip generation manual, which is a manual put together by transportation professionals all over the country performing studies for various types of land uses of similar nature to the proposed site. We used a land use code for a fast food restaurant with drive-through to develop the trips for this site. And we distributed these trips throughout the study area intersections based on existing traffic patterns, as well as any existing restrictions that might be in place. Like there's some U-turn restrictions at some of the study area intersections. Let's see. And based on our capacity analyses, we know that there, obviously, as I'm sure you are aware, there's probably a bit of some delays and congestion, some queuing on Route 6, particularly at Founts Corner Mall Road in the westbound and the eastbound direction, currently under certain peak hour conditions. Those would be expected to be improved again with the Mass DOT project in place. And based on the analysis of all of our study area intersections, all of the signals in our study area intersections would have an overall increase in delay in the future compared to existing conditions of about 6 seconds or less. And it compared to the future no build conditions, which typically we would compare a future build to a future no build, it would be even less. We're talking a few seconds overall. So just wanted to highlight again with that Mass DOT project and the retiming plan for this corridor compared to existing conditions. The existing facilities have the capacity to accommodate these new project trips. And then we also obviously analyze the unsignalized intersection of Dartmouth Mall at the southern driveway, the right and right out, and that's shown to operate at acceptable levels of service in the future compared to existing as well, with minimal increases, almost negligible, about half a second during all the peak hours. We also we rate the operations at intersections or level of service on a scale of A to F, with A being the least amount of delay and F being an increased delay in poor operations. When you design roads and intersections, you ideally design for a level service C or D. That way, when you have traffic outside of the peak hours, you're not over designing and overbuilding for what you need. Otherwise, you'd have millions of turn lanes and through lanes and things like that that are wider than what you actually need. So based on that, we are seeing that the future build conditions overall, the intersections do have a level service C or D, which is ideal. Lastly, we also reviewed crash data. We reviewed the available site distances at the site driveways within the Dartmouth Mall Plaza as part of our study. State Road at Founts Corner Mall Road is a highway safety improvement crash cluster location based on the Mass DOT website for the years 2018 to 2020. We are also aware a road safety audit was done back in 2015. Our company, Bowman, before becoming Bowman, we were McMahon, actually completed the road safety audit and it did not seem like any of the improvements had been completed to date yet. But based on a review of recent crash data provided by the Mass DOT portal, impact portal for 2016 to 2020, the crash rate was determined to actually be less than the District 5 and statewide crash rates, even though the intersection is still listed currently as an HSIP crash cluster. All of the other crash rates for the other study area intersections were all found to also be below the District 5 and statewide crash rates. Lastly, the site distance. Again, we measured site distance looking out of the proposed site driveways, looking left and looking right. And both of those measurements were found to meet the requirements given by AASHTO, the Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. So no site distance obstructions there, even though the grade does pick up a bit over in the northwest corner, as Joey had mentioned. And I think that's all I have for a summary for the study, so we can probably pass it back to Joey for any final statements and then can take questions.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Maureen. One plan that I wanted to share that I hadn't shared at the end was just our overall lighting plan. We are proposing some pole-mounted lights within the parking area to sufficiently light the parking area. There are obviously lighting around the building, and there is some recessed cans within the canopy. So the drive-through is well lit, and our parking area as well lit towards the minimum standards for parking area lighting, and making sure that our driveway curb cuts are well lit, and certainly within the site as well. So just I hadn't presented this. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we did have a lighting plan that was developed here for the entire site, certainly within our improved areas. I think that being said, I'll turn it back over to Jonathan for anything additional, and then we can kick it off to any additional comments that the board wants to discuss tonight.
Thanks, Joey. And thanks, Maureen. So I think that pretty much sums up the overview of the project. Again, this is really part of the overall mall property. And from a zoning standpoint, the A&R plan that the planning board endorsed doesn't change anything in terms of how it should be considered for zoning purposes. The landlord, if it ever wanted to sell off this individual parcel, would have to get zoning relief before doing so. With that, I would look to the board to see if you have any questions or comments, or if Christine wants to summarize staff comments first. Obviously, I'll let the board decide how to play it next.
Yep. Thank you all very much for your comments and insight into this particular plan. Christine, do you want to run through some of your checklist?
Yes, I'd like to start there. I do have, I wanted to clarify, so we had asked for easements. We just assumed that the parcel would be changing ownership, and nobody had said anything to us differently. So I didn't anticipate that it was going to stay under the same ownership. We were concerned, obviously, about access on and off the property. So, I mean, if there's going to be something in the files saying that the ownership is going to stay the same, that you're not going to change it over in 6 months, that's not the proposed plan. I mean, that makes a difference in what we need, I guess, as far as access onto the site. So that would be the first thing I would say. I think for the planning board members, one of the biggest concerns that we were having was the access from the Fawns Corner Mall Road entrance there onto the actual site. So when we go back through when Joey had shown the plan with the red on it, it kind of shows that basically the red outline, that kind of shows that maybe there was something to just exit out in that location. I mean, that's the impression I'm getting from the way it was kind of set up before. So I think there are a number of department heads that were interested in that same type of a thing. So you could still come on and off of the mall property, the overall mall property, the same way, but that there wouldn't be any concern with anybody queuing, trying to cut across and get over onto the Chick-fil-A site. So I don't know if any consideration has been given to that yet. But it seems interesting that seems to be the way it was kind of set up before. I mean, since I've been in town, the Sears Tire Pro was never open, so I'm not 100% on that. I know there had been some talk about, maybe extending an island and, out in the main access way. I don't necessarily think that needs to happen, but I don't know if the engineer has given any thought to that concern. One of the other things that I've noticed that planning had missed was for item K2 of the site plan review checklist that we went through. You obviously show the stacking, but I was wondering if there was any consideration given to a bypass lane you know, in case somebody gets trapped in the drive-through there and needs to get out or whatever, if there's any consideration to that. And then, one of the other things, I know what you said, what the existing parking spaces were, but if you're gonna do work to the, if you're gonna do work to the site, if there's been any consideration to making them the standard now, which is 10 by 20 instead of the 9 by 18, whether or not that was a consideration that you were taking into account. And since you have an overage of parking, and then what I would say to you, I know that you're interested in clearing out, and I think it's very wise to do some of the landscape along Ford's Corner Mall Road. I just want to point out that the town DPW director serves as the tree warden in this case, so he can work with whoever to determine which trees should remain and which ones can go within the right of way, especially. I mean, you know, because that is a concern to us, so that we don't end up with something just generally cleared that we weren't anticipating. I see, as far as I know that the Board of Health, I had initially thought that they were going to have concerns with regard to the trash. They don't seem to have concerns, and you've adequately explained that your pickup and your loading and all of that are off hours. So if you provide us with, you know, your hours of operation or whatever, or when you're proposing, then that will solve that problem. I know that they had asked about what some type of a water on plan 15 is a shed with water, so they wanted an answer to what that is exactly. DPW, you addressed the stormwater permit review, so you'll be working with them, and they do, just so you know, they do the review. They, being DPW, does the stormwater review on behalf of the planning board, so the planning board will ultimately be looking for that. I know that the conservation, the environmental affairs officer had wanted to find out about the, you know, the discharges and things like that to the Pascomanskit, because all of the drainage from the site goes through that ultimately through your site. So they just want to make sure that, you know, it's noted on the plans accordingly, and you'll work with DPW and conservation on that particular piece. And then obviously the fire chief expressed his concerns, which are also part of Article 24. And then I did have a question today from one of the board members earlier that will explain it later, that they will ask it afterwards, but there was some talk about whether or not, like, you know, any bus groups or anything like that, that's, you know, on the way to the Cape or anything that stops, maybe if you should, you know, be considering converting a few of those extra parking spaces that you have to like, you know, to accommodate a large scale bus, you know, if somebody brought that in. And that is one of the things that can be answered as part of Article 24 as well when we go through. It is section C, I'm sorry, D3. So maybe you want to give some consideration to that, and that person will bring it up further on. And then I guess actually the only other thing was, we usually want a list of the waivers that we're requesting on the front cover of the plan set, so that way there it stays with the plan set. And then the other thing I should point out to the planning board members is, because this new site was created, there was a new address given for this site, and so that's why it's got the it's not North Dartmouth Mall, it's actually got a state road site, like, which they had pointed out earlier. And again, that all ties into, because we thought that the property was going to be sold. So those are the biggest things that I see. Okay.
Joe, can you do me a favor? Can you just explain to me what the biggest challenges were when the owner comes to you, or the proposed investor comes to you and says, this is what you got, work with it. When you, I would assume that you've worked on these sites for Chick-fil-A in the past. What were the biggest challenges when you looked at this site?
Well, for one, it was more access to the site, parking layout, where the building needed to be for the drive-through operations and making sure that we've got enough stacking inside the site to not spill into drive aisles. We were limited. We looked at many options on this site to where to site the building. I'd say earlier on in the process, the landlord had shared a document limiting us to where the building location or the building envelope could be on the site. So that forced our building further south on the site. So where we're showing the proposed footprint fits within that building envelope. We had initially looked at an option where the building was closer sort of towards the north side of the site and had more of a counterclockwise layout through there. So we sort of mirror the whole site. And when we did that, we saw, all right, as far as the Chick-fil-A program, we want to make sure that our drive-through is operating per, their standard, per their prototype. And this layout gave us that opportunity to really queue and really get a good stack within the site to get all the customers to be within the drive-through lane and not be spilling out into any drive aisles on some of our older sites where, we weren't designing for these longer queue lanes. And obviously Chick-fil-A is a popular brand, and they're it's still an exciting brand to come to communities throughout Massachusetts, and New England, et cetera. So we know that there's a draw there. We want to make sure that the customers are getting their orders quickly and efficiently. And the way we've laid this drive-through out incorporates a lot of the current prototypes that roll out with the Chick-fil-A program. This one has that third lane, that third ordering lane, which I can get into more of the operational stuff, and Scott can certainly jump in as well when we get to that portion of it. But really the challenges on this site: drainage, existing utilities that were out there. There is a number of pipes, or there are a number of pipes going through this site. The mall drainage there's a 48-inch drain line that bisects this site. Knowing that where we were forced to kind of put the building on this site gave us some challenges there. So, trying to balance out parking layout, drive-through layout, existing utilities. Those were the bigger challenges that we faced, on this site. It is, aside from the surrounding areas, it is a pretty flat site. And the stormwater was mostly contained. But there's a lot of activity subsurface that we had challenges to try to accommodate here for this design.
Okay. Do you, before I go to the membership, do you have any restrictions brought? Maybe this is a question for Jonathan. Is there a list of restrictions from the mall ownership that you're going to have to contend with this particular site, with this particular siting of Chick-fil-A?
So as Joey indicated, I know that there were limitations on where we could put the building itself. I did not negotiate the lease. Scott, I don't know if you want to speak to whether there are any restrictions in the lease to respond to Chris's question.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any around the siding of the building. Like Joey said, they originally wanted us to stay within the building footprint, but we went back to them and said that we just couldn't, based on what all the utilities and so forth that we're going to have to deal with. But that, as with typical leases, this will answer one of your questions as well. So we're doing a long-term ground lease with the mall. It's a 15-year ground lease with a lot of 5-year options to extend. So there's no right to purchase in that agreement. So it will be a long-term ground lease. As with other leases, we oftentimes have certain restrictions on things that we can and cannot operate as, but those are very limited here. It's more centered around being more kind of isolated away from the mall. So I could certainly get some of those for you if you needed them, if there was anything of concern there.
Yeah, is there any restriction from the mall, Scott, that if we had overflow parking, people started to park in the other sections where the other tenants are in the main building? Are there any restrictions there that are going to cause you any problems?
So in other words, do we have cross parking?
Yes.
I need to go back and look. normally we would require cross parking here, but I want to make sure that, because I wasn't the real estate counterpart here. I'll go back and look though for sure.
Okay, if you can get us a little bit of information on
Yep.
the availability of overflow and any restrictions to this particular site for you from the mall ownership. I'm going to open it up to the membership. If anyone has any questions at this point. Chris,
Well, go ahead.
you haven't asked this?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You had mentioned, talked about the fact that garbage would be picked up after hours. How about deliveries?
Deliveries are also done off hours. To answer one of Christine's questions, the hours of operation are 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. They're closed on Sundays. So the deliveries and trash will be done, typically prior to opening.
Hey, can I make a kind of a stipulation on that, Joey? Any of the large trucks are delivered after hours, but like we might have a bread truck or a produce truck that's like a standard small box truck that would come during operating hours, but no large delivery trucks. Those are always brought in after hours.
Okay. I'm going to echo the concerns about the northeast corner of the parcel. Incoming traffic coming south on Fawns Corner Road, and temptation for that traffic to try and bang a quick left turn there and enter. It seems to me, just like logically, that would impede a lot of the eastbound exiting traffic and could cause a backup either on Fawns Corner Road or also people exiting your establishment through the west side and turning north and then turning east. So I'm not sure how you intended that traffic flow there, but it seems like having that as the northeast curb cut as an inbound lane would cause a lot of trouble. What are your thoughts on that?
So we did hear the comment during our tech review meeting. One of the items that we had discussed was potentially sliding that existing curb cut further west, which is what we've done under this layout. I still hear the concern about restricting cars from taking a left. My only hesitation with putting more of a vertical style curb extension here is, one, we'll need to obviously get approval from the mall ownership, because with this improvement being done off-site. But if we go back to the truck turn, again, in order for the truck vehicle to exit, they're actually kind of going over that median and then exiting out onto Fawns Corner Mall Road. So what Maureen and I were discussing this last week was, we could have possibly a 3-foot wide mountable, concrete island here that would extend sort of beyond, this right in onto the site to, again, limit that turn. And I think it would only be potentially 4 inches high. This is a quick detail of what we've done on other sites. But it's just a 4-inch high. It's not a vertical curb. It's a mountable, concrete island, but it will deter. It should deter, customers from taking that left, but it also gives a fire truck apparatus, a delivery truck apparatus, the opportunity to still, drive over that island as they make that turn. They exit out onto Fawns Corner Mall Road.
Okay, but the intent is for that cut to be exit only, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So this would restrict the left turn, the left turn into the site and also the left turn out of the site.
Okay. And curiosity question for I think it was Maureen from Bowman. Did Bowman do a traffic study for a similar application just down and around the corner on Route 6 and Tucker Road?
I'm not familiar with that study that you're speaking of personally.
Okay, because I think it was a Chick-fil-A. I'm not sure if it was the same entity that we're dealing with today here. I was
No,
just
I'm not
curious.
familiar with that specifically, I don't think.
That was KFC, Kevin.
Oh, KFC, okay, sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit more about, besides the, I mean, it's, we understand that we're starting in a bad place in terms of impervious cover, but and we see and appreciate the fact that there are efforts to decrease the impervious coverage. Other than the decreasing of the impervious cover itself, are you taking any other water runoff mitigation efforts that don't exist there? I thought I heard you refer to some mitigation efforts that are more than just increasing the pervious cover.
Yeah, so as part of the review with DPW, they were wanting for us to, maximize on-site infiltration out here as well as, water quality improvements. With this site being heavily, with there being a lot of utilities through this site, we did face some challenges on where we could, potentially look at an infiltration or subsurface infiltration, or even any surface infiltration out here, like a surface basin. The grades, as you can see here, are really steep
Yep.
across here. It's about a 10-foot grade change, and then it's all dropping down towards Founts Corner Road. What we've done here is, by reducing, the 14,000 square feet of impervious coverage, we know we're getting some, additional infiltration there, reducing stormwater runoff. What we're working on now with DPW is isolating. This is really confusing, but I can clarify what this means. Is isolating the proposed drainage improvements and keeping the existing drainage improvements as they are, because currently, even though the plans don't all jive together, there are some offline water quality improvements that were installed here. I don't know when, but there are some offline utilities here, and we want to make sure that all of that is maintained, and some of that is coming from the mall, and some of that is coming from drainage that's collected on site. So in red here indicates where the existing drain lines are through the site that are coming from off-site into the site, are being combined with, other drain lines in the site into manholes, and then everything's sort of being directed off-site into this bottom southeast corner. This portion here is the larger 48-inch drain line that essentially, if I were to draw a line connecting these two, it does this today. Knowing that we've got a building foundation footprint here, we've got some canopies we've got some footings for the canopy. We didn't want to be excavated near that line. It is a pretty large line. It's 48 inches. I believe there's only maybe 3 feet of cover over it. We're proposing to relocate that line just south of our development, just to make sure it's out of the way. Again, it's a large pipe, and we want to get it out of our way, and it's not impacting runoff rates or anything. We're literally just taking that 48-inch line and just moving it south. We're not changing any catchment areas. On site, as I mentioned up here, there are some existing drain lines that are coming into the site, and again, combined into a manhole and then heading off site. These areas here, where you've got this kind of offshoot in here, it's not clear. It's not clear through some of the plans we received, but I believe there's a water quality device here that is taken offline. There's a weir inside of this catch basin, inside this manhole, that allows some of the smaller storms to direct towards the water quality device, get its treatment, and then it ties back into the system. Under the larger storm events, it's going to bypass. It's going to mostly bypass this and just head straight through the site and then off. And I believe that's how they were designed. And there's one located here, and there's another system, I believe, located here as well. So our intent is to keep all of that infrastructure in place. We don't want to change any of that. Everything in green is our new catch basins that we're proposing within the parking area itself. So these will have deep sumps. These will have hooded for water quality improvements, oil gas separation. They'll get cleaned just like every other stormwater component on this site. But we're sort of isolating that drainage so that we've got water quality improvements for each catch basin. Again, there's another catch basin in this corner and then one here. Everything's going to be tied into an additional water quality device here that's going to treat all of this new stormwater that we're capturing on site. And ultimately, it all just ties in like it does today towards that existing drain line and then continues off site. So we are reducing stormwater flows in all storm events with these modifications. We're also trying to capture some additional water quality improvements with this design, and we feel that this design will satisfy that. And again, this wasn't submitted during our initial application. This is a result of some of the coordination that we've been having with DPW. So we're going to continue to have that, but wanted to just share that with the group. Just know that we are addressing, some of those comments that we have received.
Okay, and is there anything that are your plans with the DPW contemplating anything with nitrogen mitigation?
There was discussion there. That's a point that we need to still have with them, whether, I think they were looking for an additional water quality unit for that. Again, knowing the stormwater handbook, knowing that we're reducing that coverage, we're looking at opportunities to treat the water quality that we're able to capture on site and treat that water quality volume. Looking at any kind of phosphorus removal, that's something that we want to discuss with DPW to understand if that is something that we want to implement as part of this design, and if that's something we could probably provide that in line with our system. It's just we just want to make sure we're going to satisfy DPW comments. If that's an area of concern that is currently Dartmouth of stormwater being conveyed down to the river offsite, we can certainly look at that as well.
Okay. And Christine, so we're not deciding really anything here because these aren't final plans. So I assume we're gonna review.
Yes, you're gonna see this again.
this again. Okay. Great,
Okay.
thanks.
I mean, I assume that's where you'll all vote.
May I ask a traffic question?
Margaret, before you go, Nick, Margaret.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions. I'm one of the members of the planning board that was thinking that perhaps you might have a parking for a large bus. For instance, Coastline Elderly sometimes takes their people out for lunches, and some of the elderly, New Bedford and all. And I know everybody's going to want to go to Chick-fil-A. So I know you have enough parking. I'm wondering if you could designate one spot for parking for a large bus. That's one question. The other question I have is this a company store, Scott?
So none of our restaurants are company stores. They're all operator driven. We call them operators, owner operator, but they're franchisees. We've got a unique model in the fact that the corporation, Chick-fil-A Inc., does all the real estate and the building improvements, and then we select operators to come in and be our partners, our franchise partners. It really is a truly a unique model. One of the things that our founder did years ago when he started was he realized that it's really too hard to run more than one or two restaurants. So we limit that. So if you look across our chain, no operator has more than 3 restaurants. There are a number that have 2, but the majority of our operators only have 1 restaurant. The intent of that is that they're in the restaurant running that business and being a part of that community. Having an impact on their team members and their customers. So that's really the model. We're also unique in the fact that if you look at other franchise concepts, there's a huge cost of capital to get into those opportunities. And with our opportunity, it's once they're selected, they put down a $10,000 deposit, and then they can come in and we help them get trained up, staffed up, stocked up, and ready to open, and then it's their restaurant to run. So those are 2 of the unique model points. The other ones that were closed on Sunday, intentionally so that our operator and team members can have a day of rest. They can go and worship if they so choose, or just to spend time with friends and family. But the intent there is is a good one. What I would say is it's very unusual in the hospitality industry that you're guaranteed a weekend off, a weekend day off, and so it makes it a little more attractive to team members if they can come and work with us. So hopefully I
you.
answered your question.
Thank you. I have a question for the traffic study. That's a horrendous corner of State Road and the Fonts Corner Mall Road. And I'm wondering, have they done other hours of operations? In other words, sometimes when between 2:30 and 3, because I'm out a lot driving, you can't even get through. Have you studied other hours, or are those just the peak hours that you picked up?
So when we do our peak hour counts, we could do several kinds of counts, but we typically cover several hours in the morning, in the midday, and in the afternoon, so that we can determine between, say, 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Or between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., things like that. What the specific peak hour based on the data we collected is during that time frame. So we pick the one highest hour over a group of hours that we count.
From your traffic counts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And your
And
signage,
we select the hours too based on anticipated peaks to the site as well. So Chick-fil-A does serve a breakfast, but it's expected that the midday trips are typically the higher ones. So for this specific kind of use, we would look at a weekday midday peak hour as opposed to earlier in the morning. Then we look at the weekday afternoon as well as the Saturday midday to align with those projects.
what would your peak hour be during the week?
Let me flip back to the traffic study so I can get that number for you quickly.
Margaret, while Maureen's pulling that up, just a quick question on the bus. Is this just, are we talking like a school bus size bus that they're in, or is it more just a more of your shuttle style bus?
I think it's more like a school
okay, so
size
they
bus.
are larger. Okay.
Yes, yeah. I think you might
Okay.
want to do that. Because I think you're gonna, as Christine said, people go to the Cape, they take these day tours. You might want to consider, and you have the capability because of the site with your parking. I believe you do. I have
Answer the question about the peak hours quickly.
Yeah.
Before next question, the weekday midday, we determined to occur from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. The weekday afternoon was from 4 to 5 p.m. And the Saturday midday peak hour was from 12:15 to 1:15, based on the data we collected.
Thank you. May I ask Jonathan a question? Why did you do an A&R on this site? I'm curious about that.
So we did not, and it was the landlord who did the A&R, and
Okay.
we actually were not aware of it until after the fact. I can, make an educated guess just from having done this long enough. I think they were probably trying to just do some of their own site planning, knowing that this ground lease was going to be in place, and they were essentially trying to, I think it's significant that they, if you look at the line, it doesn't align with the roadway. It aligns with the existing parking. And so I think that they were, in that northwest corner. So I think they were just trying to sort of delineate the leased premises more than anything else. People do A&Rs for all sorts of reasons, sometimes to get zoning freezes, sometimes to get a separate address. Maybe that was actually their intent, was just so that this could have a separate and frankly less confusing address. But we are aware of no intent on the part of the landlord to sell this parcel. And as Scott indicated, we certainly are not intending to purchase it. We're intending to lease it long term.
Thank you. Christine, What, do you know if this A&R was recorded at the registry?
Yes, it was.
It was recorded at the
Yeah.
registry.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Myra.
have the booking page in the office if you want it tomorrow to look
No,
at.
I'm fine. I just wanted to know if it was recorded.
Kevin, Nick, any questions?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead, Nick. You
ahead,
were
Nick.
next.
So thank you to all of you. Appreciate the presentation and thrilled to see such potential enhancement of the site. In regards to Margaret, I just want to share, aside from maybe the example that Margaret gave you all with Coastline and or any adult day services, et cetera, keep in mind, we've got 2 high schools nearby that commonly multiple times a week have a visiting high school bus or even a coach bus of teams, and teams that travel look for food after the game. So you'll probably see school buses and coach buses on site in the evening hours, I think more common than not, based on the high school athletics and club athletics that occur in our area. I'm only sharing that to support Margaret's request for bus spacing. But my question originally was specific to simplifying the traffic study results, which was well revealed to us. But I'm asking myself, how am I going to speak to the residents tomorrow when they approach me and ask me questions? So I'm going to ask you a question to help myself. Can you tell us how many vehicles you expect to access the site per day on average, to simplify the matter? And is there data that suggests or supports how many of those vehicles, either in count or percentage, currently use these thoroughfares, use these roads on a daily basis, so that we as members of the planning board can simplify what the traffic impact is going to be as we speak to residents? Quite frankly, as this presentation is going on, my phone hasn't stopped beeping, questions being asked about Chick-fil-A. So is there any way to share that information with me?
Sure. If you have a copy of our traffic impact study, there is a section where we talk about the ITE estimated vehicle trip generation. And we have a table that summarizes that information from ITE, where it shows the anticipated daily number of trips as well as the trips specific to those peak hours that we analyze. And it gives a number that's entering the site as well as a number that would be exiting the site. It also provides a pass-by trip, which is shown as a reduction in the table from the overall new project trips. And this is because a great portion of traffic to a proposed land use, like a fast food restaurant with a drive-through, are not considered new project trips. They're already utilizing the study area roadways, and they would make a stop to the site on their regular route. So it's not considered a new trip. They're already on the roadway network. So having the pass-by trips separated out in the table helps summarize those true new project trips, someone that, you know, is specifically making a trip onto the study area roadways that would not otherwise be there today. So we have a table for that. It varies based on the time of day and the peak hours that we're looking at, but there could be, you know, anywhere from 73 new trips entering for the weekday midday, 49 trips entering for the weekday afternoon peak hour, or 79 for the midday peak hour. And those, while they're all entering the site, they're distributed amongst those study area roadways and where they're coming to and from. We also have a figure in our traffic impact study. It's called, let me grab the figure number for you in a second, but it basically shows, based on the existing traffic patterns, what percentage of traffic uses Founts Corner Mall Road as opposed to State Road Route 6. And we distributed trips primarily based on that, but in addition, based on some of those turn restrictions that exist at the signal. So we weren't showing people U-turning where they're not supposed to be U-turning and things like that. But let me grab that figure number for you so you can reference.
And so what page, I'm sorry, Maureen, what page was the
For the trip generation, it's page 18.
18? Okay.
Yep. And for the it's page 24, so it's figure 8 in our traffic impact study, where we show it's called direction of arrivals and departures. So that shows a percentage on the study area roadways that shows how much of traffic already uses those roads, and that's how we determined primarily how to distribute those new trips.
So I believe that all of that is in your packages that you received. Just so
Yeah.
everybody knows,
To
I
point
did
to,
not
it's
give,
easier for.
I did not give them, right, the whole study to the planning board members, but I do have it if any of you want it. We were just trying to keep the package down. So we didn't give them all of the appendices, but if you'd like it, I can distribute it to all of you on the public access tomorrow. But you do have the pages that she referenced.
All right, much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you. One thing that I'm noticing about the plan that I'd like to see would be crosswalks marked from the front or the main entrance to the planning site. I don't know, did I miss that? Yeah, so I'm not seeing crosswalks anywhere
Right.
here for
So that was one of the
pedestrians.
comments that we gave,
Perfect.
so they haven't had time to respond to that just
Okay,
yet. That
okay.
is one of the requirements of Article 24.
Yeah, along with the
Right.
bicycle rack, I
Yep.
would assume. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other question I had is the architectural design standards for the town of Dartmouth. Has that been provided to the applicants?
So that is available online. They did give us their standard their standard concept. We did not give them any feedback on that. I left that up to the planning board members because they are just guidelines as to whether or not you know, are looking for anything in particular.
Well,
So
I
that
know
can be part of
when
the feedback.
so I know when Friendly's came, when several other restaurants came with their quote unquote corporate design, we did not just say, oh, okay, that's corporate, that's the way it is. I personally would be looking for some type of softening of these hard edges, if you'd say, on this building. I don't know what the other board members feel, but I think that's important, especially on such a prominent corner uptown. So everyone coming to UMass Dartmouth is going to see it. And we did it with Bob's Discount Furniture. They gave us some peaks over the doorways, a little 3-dimension. I'm not asking for, wood shingles or anything like that, like as if we were Cape Cod, but I'd like to see this building a little bit less boxy and a little bit more Cape Cod or New England style, something.
I will forward the guidelines again tomorrow. I will forward them, I see, for the first time tomorrow. They did not receive feedback on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The other thing that I probably should point out, since Kevin is bringing up I saw from the signage package that you all received as well that they're gonna have to go before the ZBA for some size extensions for signage. And I would recommend that if you are going to move forward in that way, I would do that sooner rather than later so that
Okay.
you can get on their agenda. Because they usually have a waiting list.
Okay, but that's a separate permit from the site plan review, correct?
Yeah, that's a separate permit with it's through that same permitting portal, but
Yeah.
it's the zoning board of appeals.
Correct, okay.
And that's
Or they could reduce the size of the
right.
signs.
So that is in the, yeah.
Anything else, Kevin?
That's all for now. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. So Maureen, just a quick question for you. The pass by percentages, were they around 30%? For those that are actually on the roads already that would enter and exit the site?
The pass by percentage is given by ITE based on the specific land use. So depending on what the land use is, they've done various studies throughout the country on what percentage is pass by traffic and what percentage would be new trips. So based on the specific land use code that we used, approximately 50% of those weekday morning peak hour trips and 55% of the weekday afternoon trips are attributed pass-bys, but to be conservative, we only used a 50% pass-by to all of the peak hours.
Okay.
IT doesn't give a pass-by to the Saturday, so we kind of follow what's typically done for either the weekday morning or weekday afternoon.
All right. Are they incorporating the success of this particular brand though? I don't think those numbers don't they don't seem believable to me that and most of the issues, obviously, listen, we're here to help get this corner developed in the best way that we can for the town. And one of the biggest problems that I'm sure you have on every site is the amount of interest and the amount of traffic produced by it. You know, all you have to do is just Google the issues with traffic for these particular businesses. But I'm just wondering if the data that you're working from incorporates the interest in this particular franchise versus just a standard, you know, corner restaurant. I don't know if you can even shed light on that.
Yeah, as far as the specific locations and brands that were studied, I don't know if that's necessarily available from the publications. I do understand your concern. It's industry standard to use the Institute of Transportation Engineers data when there's no other site-specific data available. So that's what we've used in this case.
Okay, and how many traffic studies have you dealt with this particular brand? Any idea?
Several. I more than 5, 10.
Tens, not hundreds, right?
Really.
Okay, and all in the Northeast?
Yes.
Christine, the fire comments or the comments from the fire department, did they what did they have to say?
So the fire chief always refers to something in the site plan review regulations, provide a fire apparatus access plan, which includes an analysis and evaluation of fire apparatus maneuvers via the 2 access roads created by swept path analysis and turn simulation software. And then he refers to 527 CMR 1 section 18.1.1.4. Aerial apparatus length is 40 feet within axle to axle length of 21 feet 5 inches. Plans need to be revised to satisfy these concerns. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, all right, and
This is pretty standard that that Chief Arruda gives every time
right.
for everybody.
In this plan in front of us right now, adheres to those standards? Not Jonathan.
So these plans will have to be revised to include that, to include whatever the chief needs part of it. And then the chief will be looking at it again when the actual building permit application goes through. So he'll look at these plans, and then there may be some additional things that happen as a result of that
Okay.
review.
So Joey,
By the way, this was forwarded to the new building commissioner that started today. So he will be reviewing it and giving comments as well, I would imagine, over the next couple of weeks.
okay. Joey, on that particular building layout, where's the kitchen? Which side is the kitchen on?
So the kitchen is all on the right side.
Side.
So the dining is on the left.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
And just to add to, so this truck turn wasn't submitted as part of the original package, so this will get included. This exhibit will be included in our overall plans once we have that revised plan set.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So it's on yours. It's just not on our
Correct.
pack. Okay.
Correct.
And he didn't. The chief hasn't brought in access to the rear of the building. Then.
No, he has not at this time. No, his comment is available on the portal, the only comments that he gave us. And I am not sure, I don't believe that if he was present at the technical reviewer meeting, I can't quite remember, to be honest with you.
Usually.
He does always give feedback and comments, so I can verify with him again.
All right. Joey, the outside dining section, there's a few plans that we have that said that it's gonna be taken off. Is that accurate or not? No?
No, there
Christine?
will be, yeah, I'm not sure. There will be outdoor dining here. The
Oh.
final patio layout, we'll certainly have firmed up because we'll include a bike rack in here. So we'll firm this up, but there will be outdoor seating here.
Okay.
It'll be
Christine,
enclosed with a
give us
fence.
any markings on the original plan about the outdoor dining? Let me see if I can find.
Not that I'm aware of. I wouldn't have requested that it be removed. I don't know where that came from.
All right, hold on one sec. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe it'll jog something. Yeah, it was. No.
Chris, can I ask a follow-up while you're looking for that?
For this, please.
Thank you. Actually, this is a perfect slide for this. The planters that you're putting in, the two new cuts into the existing parking lot. Are those going to be curbed to the extent that the runoff is going to run around them, or is the runoff going to run into them?
The runoff will be running into them. So these two islands served for a couple purposes. One is the current stormwater goes from, as I mentioned before, northwest to southeast. We didn't want all the stormwater going directly towards the building. So knowing that we couldn't get 2 full rows of parking in here and getting some additional green space here, this allows the stormwater to be treated in sections so that we can break up that stormwater flow that's currently going towards the building, to kind of break that up and limit the amount of stormwater flow that's generated through the parking area and heading towards the front door. So it's a portion of these curbs will act as gutters to direct stormwater to catch basins. So the
Got it.
catchments are all located within the gutter lines.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question too, another question, if I may.
Yes, please do.
This is for Scott. Scott, do you, what's your anticipated daily customer count on, let's say, Thursday versus a Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically, so I'll kind of go throughout the week, right? So on
Right.
Monday and Tuesday, the traffic counts are typically usually about like 60% of that Saturday peak day. And then it increases every day from that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it usually increases by about 10% a day to get to the 100%. So with this particular location, I need to go back and look to see what the exact daily traffic count was that we were expecting, or the customer count, but I'd have to go back and look. I could do that.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have those figures next time we see. Thank you, Scott.
And I'll second our chairman's questioning of a 50% pass-by rate. I just don't see that happening. This is
So just to clarify, that's fine, you can continue. I wanted to chime in and clarify that again, just for the record, as far as the pass-by. So that table is intended, and the pass-by is intended to show the new trips to the site. But when we do our analysis, we analyze it based on the total trips in that table. So we're not reducing, and saying that there's not going to be these other trips that are already on the roadway that need to turn in and out of the site. We do look at the total trips as part of the capacity analysis and those impacts on the roadways. Just want that clarification. It's a pass-by reduction to determine new trips, site-specific, that wouldn't be here otherwise, but we do analyze the total trips given by ITE for the purpose of the capacity analysis. And we redistribute those trips amongst the study area intersections as needed, based on where they're coming to and going from.
One more quick question. I know you have one in Fall River. Do you have anything, do you have anything up the Cape or, what is your other closest Chick-fil-A to Dartmouth? Or is it Fall River and that's it?
Fall River's the closest, but we do
Okay,
have,
that's what I thought.
yeah, we have one on the Cape in
Mhm.
Hyannis. We also have one
Right.
in Plymouth. And then on the other side of Fall River, the next closest one is Seekonk.
Peacock. Mhm.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we're actively working to build the market out. We're excited about Dartmouth. We're also looking in some other areas down there on the southern part of Massachusetts as well.
Mhm. Thank you, Scott.
All right, Christine, looks
Christopher, oh, sorry, if I could jump in, I think I know what your comment was. It was regarding, did you find it?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
It
okay,
was the layering. It was the
correct, yeah,
was-
and it was more just to freeze the dining room tables off the plan, because it was confusing with all the utilities, not to remove the patio.
It must have been confusing because
Well, it is confusing, the existing utilities out here, it's quite a bit, so.
Okay.
Through there.
Um, well, my first impression is that number one, it's I think it's a great use of the site. The fact that we are looking at new catch basins, we're keeping some of the existing, but we have two separate systems running there to try and keep as much of this runoff out of the Pascamanted as we can is very important to everybody, obviously. You'll run into that with the DPW in ad nauseum when it comes to the runoff. So I'm going to leave that with you and with them. But just to say that we do appreciate the fact that you are looking at trying to mitigate some of the issues that we run into in town with some of these older sites where we've got direct drain to that area. The ownership we've basically cleared up, non-conforming, we've cleared up the bus trips. I think that's a point well taken from one of the members that we do have some obviously UMass Dartmouth is right next to us, and we've got two high schools very close. So kudos for the person who's bringing the application forward, because I think they do very well there because of that. I'll take a closer look at the fire regulations. The site when let's see, the southern view. Right now, there really isn't too much in the way of landscaping on that side. It's mostly grassland. Just look at the pictures, and I'm just wondering if the backside and the drive up area would be shielded with anything new. I didn't see much on that side when it came to the landscaping.
Right, so in this area, we were sort of limiting our landscaping just because there were some larger trees here, just to not block visibility to the building. We can certainly go back to our landscape group and certainly pass that question along to them if there's some additional enhancement they can do here to increase some of the landscaping there. Is there anything in particular, or just this zone in general?
Yeah, well, what about the guardrails? Are you going to keep the guardrails? Are we going to swap those out for wooden, or how are we going to handle that?
So that's off our site, that our plan was just to keep that existing condition that's there today, to metal guide rail. We're going to keep that.
Okay.
Albeit there was a section would be modified at the curb cut, but yeah, that was to remain.
Okay. Hours covered those. The exit only on the Font's Corner side, I think is you'll get a little bit more into that. Excuse me. The crosswalks, bike racks. Okay, I think this is a pretty good first viewing of the the site plan. Any other questions, comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one question?
Go ahead, Nick.
I'm just curious, I realize the extent of work that's been done and all that's been presented so far, and it's greatly appreciated. I'm just curious, was the existing subsurface findings basically making the building's back wall, if you would, drive-through wall, being on the easterly border on Fons Corner Road, was it making that option prohibitive, period, the end, or just less desired? The only reason I'm asking is that as you turn off of Route 6 heading westerly on the access road to the right, and you abruptly take a right and you can take another right onto the property, you'd be able to take that right a little bit sooner, let's say more southerly, and then just further north on that same little access road, if you had your exit coming off of your property to the right, you'd have a stop sign, which would give us a lot of control, probably 100, 150 feet, whatever that is or more, before Fons Corner Road. Was it an option and less desired, or clearly not an option?
So if I'm hearing you right, it's pushing this driveway sort of midway along the
No.
frontage here, or?
No, if the building was rotated counterclockwise and the right now southerly border just
Okay,
south of your
got it.
cursor was to the east over here on Fons Corner Mall Road. In other words, the face of the building would be facing westerly, and both your entrance and your exit would be westerly, which would allow your traffic to come in and off of the property, off of the parcel, if you would, servicing Chick-fil-A on this little access road that's off of Route 6. It would just give us a buffer of flow of your exiting flow much sooner than where it is now as it's about to get onto Fons Corner Road.
So one of the comments that came as we were developing our concepts for this from the ownership group, from the landlord here, and I mentioned it before, is there is a building envelope, and I'm gonna say I know the back wall was up against it. I think this was, I don't have the plan open in front of me, but essentially they gave us a box of where the building could sit within. And we're holding that back edge of the building just to build out enough parking for it. But that was our biggest restriction. We looked at multiple options here. Ultimately, we had to conform to, having that building within that box, and that's how this layout was sort of created from there.
And that box was determined and defined and implemented based on subsurface findings, or just a preference?
I believe preference from the landlord. There's a lot of the utilities that are out in front of the site are more just individual utilities, gas, water services, just the services there. The main, I call it the 48-inch larger drain line that's coming from the mall across there, cuts sort of on the back side of our building, so it's not going within this building envelope.
Understood.
We're relocating just because we've got other program elements here that we don't want to obviously have a conflict during construction.
All right, much appreciated.
So what I would say to planning board members is, as you move forward, remember that our next meeting is going to be April 8th. That is the public hearings for town meeting articles. You can still do something at that time if you want, depending on when we get revised plans and everybody have a couple of weeks to look at them. The meeting after that is the 22nd of April. This is not a public hearing, so we are only going to ultimately need 3 yeses and 4, depending on if we have an appointment, depending on how the election goes, a number of different things like that. So I would think maybe the April 22nd, given those type of things, and then plus the new building commissioner getting up to speed and having a chance to review everything, and then giving DPW and all of the other department heads the ample 2 weeks to review. If we could get something, that would probably be best. After that, we're talking like I think it's May 6th is the meeting after that. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Yes, so it's April 8th, April 22nd, and then May 6th are the next few meetings.
Okay. Let's see. So we've got some plans. We're waiting for some revisions. We've got a lot of information for us to kind of digest and reconsider. And so given that, and I'm sure there's some work to be done on your side also. So as far as the membership goes, I'll entertain a motion if you don't have any other questions or concerns.
So we're looking for a motion to continue, right?
Correct.
To the, what makes sense, the 8th or the 26th?
I was
22nd,
22nd, right, Christine?
22nd, I said,
22nd.
yeah, so
Right.
so there's April 8th, then there's April 22nd or May 6th. So it depends on how soon the engineer, I think, is thinking they're gonna turn around the plans and the things for DPW. If you want a little bit more time, or you think,
Yeah, what
You'll
do you
be able to
guys
get
feel
it
like?
to us.
What do you want?
Well, to be honest, I feel we're already gonna be less than 2 weeks to the 8th. So we can, I think we're at a point where we can certainly get a revised set of plans back to DPW. I just not sure if they'll have enough time to review prior to the 8th to give their comments. I'm not sure how the board feels on that. We could certainly shoot for the 8th.
well, what I'm getting at is, to be honest with you, with the planning board and some of the other things that they have on the 8th, I'm thinking maybe the 22nd would be best for them as well, for planning board members.
I think it's gonna take, I think the review period after the next set of plans is gonna take a little bit longer.
right?
Agreed.
So we've got to give them a little bit of time. So my opinion, Kevin, is the 22nd.
Mine
Okay,
too, mine too.
all right, I'll move to continue the application for until the 22nd.
Motion to continue until April 22nd by Kevin
I'll
Estes,
second,
seconded by Margaret Sweet. Kevin Estes,
Yes.
Margaret Sweet,
yes.
Mello,
Yes.
Psychopatis,
Yes.
Chris O'Neill is yes. Thank you all very much. Well done.
Thank you all.
It's
Thank you.
fabulous, and everybody is
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, let's see. My computer is real slow on this plan, so this might get locked. Nope, okay. Let's see, number 2 on the agenda, site plan review, PSPR 24-6, 439 State Road, Assessors Map 166, Lot 137. We have a request to continue, Christine?
Yes, that is correct. You have received another request to continue from the applicant's attorney on this one, Greg Coldis. I have explained to him, as with the previous applicant here, that I think April 22nd or May 6th would be probably the best. So I don't know if you want to continue until the 22nd, and we'll see if they get us any plans or any further information with regard to that. Margaret had recused from the last one, so she will be recusing again from this one, I assume.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes, okay, so.
What was the date that they requested? Do we know?
So they did not request a date, so I kind of threw a couple of dates out to him.
No response?
No response, so I'm thinking the 22nd is probably appropriate in this particular case. And as long as I let them know that that's fine, and if they really push for some reason to do it the 8th, then, we can make an accommodation and I can put them on an agenda. I mean, but I think the 22nd is best.
That sounds fair. Anyone?
I would make that motion.
Motion made to continue that particular 24-6 to April 22nd by Kevin Mello. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Second by Kevin Estes. Kevin Mello,
Yes.
Kevin Estes,
Yes.
Psychopatis,
Yes.
Margaret Sweet,
I don't know, is it appropriate that I vote on this?
Margaret Sweet.
I'm gonna
you-
abstain. I'm gonna
Yeah,
abstain.
She's gonna recuse, so no. Yeah, I think you abstain in this particular case.
Chris O'Neill is yes, so that passes. That's fine. Item number 3, the minutes, March 11th, 2024. Any questions, concerns? If not,
Motion to accept and file.
motion made by Nick Psychopatis, seconded by
I'll second that.
Kevin Mello. Nick,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Estes,
Yes.
Fritz Sweet,
Yes.
and Chris O'Neill is yes. Number 4, correspondence, Fall River, City of Fall River and Town of Westport. Any questions, concerns, or motion to file?
Motion to accept and file, please.
Motion to accept and file by Kevin Mello, seconded by
Second.
Kevin, Nick Psychopatis, Kevin Mello,
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin Estes,
Yes.
Fritz Sweet.
Yes.
O'Neill is yes. Number 5, for your info, new business, zoning board of appeals decisions, legal ads, January 24th, March 13th. Christine, anything there?
So we do have from the ZBA, the approval of a variance for 481 Florence Corner Road, which is part of the Pascomanskett Land Company. That had been continued a couple of times. The variance was approved, as I said, on February 7th, I believe, or yeah, so that one, and then they had another decision for the approval of a variance, and this one was for 12 Main Avenue. It was it is within the Aquifer Protection District is part of this one. Again, this one was approved. And then the third thing was an approval of a special permit for that same property for 12 Main Avenue, and that one was approved as well.
When you say a ZBA approved, what exactly did they approve within
So you
that?
have the decisions, so for the first one, for the Pascomanskett Land Company, it was to, an unanimous decision of the Board of Appeals to grant the request for the use variance to construct a 4-story 64-unit residential apartment building. That was initially going to be an office building, office medical, when it was first brought before the planning board at one point. So that's what that one was for. The second one was a property owner seeking for the 12 Main Avenue one, was seeking a variance to build an addition, a first floor bedroom, kitchen extension, and room over a garage onto an existing
Okay.
single family residence in the general business district and the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, which had issues with setbacks. And then the third thing was the special permit for that same 12 Main Avenue property. The approval had to do with the 10% lot coverage. They give their findings. And then the last thing that they had was a 2-year extension approval, and that was for the subject property of 783 State Road. That is an agreement for I believe that's a 40B project, but I'm not 100%. Don't hold me on that. It's 783 State Road. Again, that's
I
what
don't
that.
think I have that.
I don't
Did
have
we-
that. I stopped at 12 Main.
Yeah, we don't have that one, Christine.
Okay, then I'll add that one to the next time as well then. I will add that to
Yes.
packages.
Yeah, we don't
Um,
have that.
That is just a one page thing, but I will add it to your packages or send it to you tomorrow. In addition, so you have that one.
Who's the petitioner, please, Christine?
The applicant's name is First Dartmouth LLC.
Okay,
And the case was originally started in 2018. It was 2018-18. It was approved on March 11th of 2021. It's assessor's map 163 lot 54.
I think that might be the,
That might be on page 150.
yeah, that might be, I don't have it, but, okay.
You said
150,
map
Is it
150?
150?
163 lot 54?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's on page 150.
Of your packages? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that.
It is just a one-page thing, and again, it was a 2-year extension. I know that I believe that Attorney Mark Bobrowski was involved with that one, if that gives you any indication.
Yeah, I think I know what it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, you're
Aye.
welcome.
We don't need a motion on that, right,
Nope,
Christine?
you don't need a,
No.
you don't need a motion on that one at all.
Reports, anything? I have Serped Wednesday, and I have charter review on Thursday. We have the meeting on the 1st, right, Christine?
No, we do not. I
We
had
do
sent you all an email.
Okay.
Initially it was advertised. I was gonna get to that under my thing now. So should I go right into that?
Please do.
Okay, so we had initially started to advertise it on April 1st. Some changes were made and we ended up having to re-advertise for the April 8th meeting. So the public hearings are gonna be April 8th. There will not be a meeting on April 1st. I went with the advice of town council, considering that the issue that we had with, again, with advertisement, because we do things typically, we have to advertise 2 weeks before the meeting, but the paper that the town uses only publishes on Thursday, which means I basically are 2.5 weeks before the meeting. So that's kind of where some of the confusion always comes in. So again, there is no public hearing. I did receive one inquiry from a member of the public about the meeting for the 1st, and I had responded back to him. So again, that meeting is going to be on April 8th, which is a regularly scheduled planning board meeting. Anybody
Okay.
have any questions
Do
on
we-
that?
Do we have anything back from Brian?
We do. And so Brian will be on the April 8th meeting to discuss everything,
Okay.
to go over everything.
All right,
at
when are
that
we
time.
gonna get that?
So I can give that to you tomorrow so that you can all look that over. I received his comments today.
Okay,
So
yeah,
you'll have adequate time to look at that.
you can get it to him, to us before,
Yeah.
or as soon as you can, that'd be great.
Right, and so now there are things up on the website as well. All of the drafts are up on the website and they are on the board outside the office. I just wanted to give you an update on the Papagenos, the former Papagenos site that is being developed as a Mexican restaurant, 329 State Road. I did work with, that was something that I was waiting for, doing some administrative pieces for that. With after we received some clarification on the access to that parcel from the other parcel, the
Mhm.
attorney for the developer did provide all of that information. So I moved that one ahead for our discussions. And then I also wanted to let you know that we did have meeting at DPW last week with the developer for the former Sports Dome facility for Commerce Way. So that batting cage proposal, we are starting that one back up again and working on that. The new engineer involved in that is responding to comments received at that meeting, and that will be coming forward in the immediate future. So those are the biggest things that we've got going on right now.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns?
Oh, the other thing I was gonna say was the technical reviewer meeting on March 19th was canceled. We do have the next one is scheduled for April 2nd. And we do have a couple of things on for that one. A potential OSRD subdivision, and then a potential car dealership that has come in a few times. The newspaper also ran an article at the end of last week. They had reached out to the communications director about the Hawthorne, the former Hawthorne site, to get an update because it had been a year since the fire at that building had taken place. So we did explain to them that we have not received that they had come in for and gotten feedback, and we have not received revised plans with regard to that yet. but they are still working on it.
Question about that. Isn't there a state requirement that a demolition take place after a fire? If it's,
That I don't know, but I can ask that question and get that to you.
end of the day, those people should not have to see the site the way that it is for the next year.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something that we can send over to building to have them put it on his very long list, I'm sure.
Yes.
There was an article in Dartmouth Weekly about Hawthorne.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think that was Thursday. It was.
Yes.
Yeah. So they had called and we had worked with Magnolia
Okay.
with regard to response for that.
Yeah. And that was from, the article was about the development or the
Well, it
fire?
was just kind of doing a recap of the fire, and then it was kind of doing the development, and there was some misinformation out there that maybe planning was holding it up and maybe a couple of other things, but we don't have we're not holding anything up. They haven't come back before us, right?
Something up? Never do that.
No, we're not.
Intentionally.
So
I'm curious about that because I think there is some type of regulation, unless there's an investigation, then they're required to keep the site as is. But I believe that it becomes an attractive nuisance after a certain period of time. So it may behoove the current owner to take a look at demolition, maybe leave the foundation. But anyway, all right. Well, we'll see what happens next Tuesday. I think I'll see you either way on the 8th. The 8th, right? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep, next meeting is April 8th.
Okay.
You
Public
can run
hearing.
2 jobs.
I can, but I know I can. Yeah. Let's see, I don't think I want to.
Well, thank you. Get double the
You
salary.
might miss your friends here, you know?
True. Unfortunately, Sister Mary Nora drilled the multiplication tables into my head and good either way. So, all right. So that's it, Christine.
That's it. That's enough. Yes.
I'll entertain.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Margaret Sweet, seconded by
Second,
Nick Psychopatis. Margaret,
Yes.
Nick,
yes.
Mello,
Yes.
Estes,
Yes.
and Chris O'Neill's yes. Great. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Christine.
Good
Chris.
night,
Chris, good
everyone.
luck, buddy.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah. Either way, we'll see you.
Good luck. Good night, everyone.
Good night.